Hello guys, and welcome back to another class of our course about the complete introduction to data science with Python. So in the past few classes we talked about all the different algorithms that exist, and basically we talked about the theory behind all of those algorithms. So basically right now you should have some basic knowledge about each of those algorithms. And right now we are going to practice writing them down on your text editor, which is PyCharm. So basically we're going to write down some of those algorithms inside of PyCharm. So pretty simple. Today we are going to start with linear regression. So basically we're going to we're going to create a linear regression model with arrays. So basically we're going to generate arrays and create a linear regression model. So for the purpose of this class, we're going to use NumPy to be able to make the calculations and work with arrays, as well as matplotlib to be able to visualize everything that we will create. So let's start. So as always, the first thing that we need to do is import the tools that we are going to work with. And in this case, we are going to work with NumPy. So we are going to import it. And we are going to work with matplotlib. Here we go. So .pyplot as plt. All right, so when we have everything, so right now we have imported everything that we need. So we have NumPy as well as pyplot. And as I said, the first thing that we need to do is create our arrays, because we will work with those numbers. So basically this would be our database to have our x's and our y's inside of the graph that we are going to create. So let's start. Basically we're creating our x right now. So the value of our x, as I said, will be a array. So let's write it down. So pretty simple. What I'll ask you guys to do is to write down from 10 to 15 numbers. It can be random numbers. So you write down whatever you guys want. It doesn't have to be big numbers. It doesn't have to be small numbers. You guys decide what you want to write. All right. Next thing is writing down our y values. Right now we have our x values and we want to write down our y values. All right. So once again, you decide what numbers you want to write down. And what we want to do right now is simply print everything to be sure that our arrays work perfectly, that we didn't make any mistake. All right, so let's run everything. All right, so right now we have our arrays right here. So as you can see, guys, everything works perfectly. Everything works fine. It's awesome. So next thing that we want to do, so if you want to keep your print, you can keep it. If you want to delete it, you can delete it. What we want to do right now is we want to create a function that will allow us to generate those, to make the calculation for our, for our plot, not our plot, but our slope inside of our regression model. So we will do it by using the polyfit function. So basically we'll return an array of coefficients that will minimize the squared error. So basically how exactly we write it down is pretty simple. So we'll create a function that we'll call func1, so function 1, or you can name it whatever you guys want. So it's gonna be np because we are referring to a NumPy function, and it's gonna be polyfit. So inside of our polyfit function we have 3 arguments. So we have the x in our case, the y, so basically the database that we are going to use, and finally we have a number, so it's gonna be 1 in our case. So if we run everything, let me just print the function, I forgot to print it. So if we print our function 1 and we run everything, as you can see, this would be the answer of this function right here. So this is the answer that is generated. All right, so next thing that we want to do, we want to create our graph. So basically we are going to use a matplotlib function, which is plt.plot. So we want to plot all our points. So as always, we are using x and y as data. And what type of points we want, it's pretty simple. We want small circles. So to have small circles, we'll just write down points. So we have a point. So if we run everything, let me just write it down, plt.show, right? Here we go. So we have our small points right here. So basically those points represent all the points that we have right here. And what we want to do right now, it's pretty simple. We want to add a line right here to be able to have a linear regression. Once again, the points right here are not really representative of something, but we will be able to have an average line in the middle right now. All right, so how exactly do we do this? It's pretty simple. We will simply add another function. So once again, we'll write down our plt.plot function. And in this case, we will need to use another function, which is the polyvol function. And basically, this function will allow us to add a line that I'm talking about. So pretty simple. How do we do this? It's pretty simple. So we will need a few arguments to make it work. So we'll have our x, which will be part of our database. Then we are going to make a reference to numpy, so np.polyvol. And in this case, we will have our function. So we are making reference to our function, which is func1 and 2x. And finally, the last little thing that we want to write down would be r minus. And then simply show everything. So basically, we have all the arguments that we need right now to be able to write down our function. So if we run everything, as you can see, we have our line right here in the middle. So the main problem of all this, so basically what we can see with this model right now is that there is no correlation between x's and y. So basically there is nothing that, there is no correlation between those 2 points, because once again, the points are everywhere on the graph and the line is just right here. So basically the line doesn't mean a lot, because in our case, the points are just everywhere on the graph. So basically there is no correlation between x's and y's in this example below. If, for example, the points were, I don't know, in a straight order, so basically let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4 and etc., well, it would have been different. So let me just show you another data set. So let's say instead of all this, we have another data set that looks something like this, so more simple. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we rerun our app. So as you can see, it's a bit more representative right now. The line is a bit more representative, and it makes more sense because the points, the more our x grows, the more our y grows. So basically, this is what we can understand from our graph right here, and it makes a little bit more sense than the past graph where the points were everywhere on the graph. So basically, this helps us find a correlation between x and y, and in this case, we have a correlation. It's not a really strong correlation, but once again, we have a correlation. There are statistical ways to find the correlation between x and y, between x's and y's and the points on the graph. Once again, we're not gonna talk about this. So right now, you know how to create a basic linear regression model and how exactly you can evaluate this model. So that's it for this class, guys, and see you all in our next class.